Leo80, that is the name of the board we will be reviewing today. I'm going to be keeping it simple in today's review, starting with an unboxing, followed by building it with the provided accessories, and followed by what I would recommend if you prefer a different sound signature. So the Leo80 starts at a base price of $157. Unless you are getting white, then it will be extra $10 at $167. It's available in 3 different colors, black, blue and white, and it is also available wind keyless if you're interested in that. Anyway, it comes nicely packaged in a carrying case which houses your accessories and keyboard. Accessories include an instruction manual, wireless receiver, pull-on gasket, a set of screw-in stabilizers, keycap puller, switch puller, a mini screwdriver, braided cord cable with aviator, a pretty cool aviator and quality cable in my opinion, and a pack of 90 switches. We'll first start off with our stabilizers. As the saying goes, a good sounding keyboard is made from good sounding stabilizers. I don't know who said that, but it's a saying now. So I'll be looping the stabilizers with Choxfox 205 Grade 0. I haven't really shown the process of how to loop your stabilizers in a while, so those of you who are beginners, I decided I'll just show you guys how it's done. It is extremely simple. All you have to do is apply a thin amount of loop on the housing and spread it out evenly. As for the wire, you can go for a more hefty amount and make sure you loop past the 90-degree bend. And that is about it. Repeat those steps for the leftover of your stabilizers and you should be good to go. Now for our keyboard, the one I have is the white version. It is fully CNC aluminum. It's an 80% keyboard, otherwise known as 10 keyless. With a 6-degree typing angle, it features a clean badge at the top which could be removed for F13. At the back, we have a brass weight with the same logo featuring the Leo star sign. With triple mode connection, Bluetooth, wired and wireless 2.4 GHz, it has all the basic specs that anybody would want. Last but not least, it has 2 customizable RGB thingies at the side. It kind of provides for an underglow on the left and right. So to open it up, it is held together by 8 screws at the back. Now we can go through our compartments. Starting off with our bottom housing, it basically houses our daughter board and 3000 mAh battery for our Bluetooth. Our top frame is pretty simple, gasket cutouts and a brass bed. Onto our PCB, 5-pin south-facing hot swap sockets equipped with per-key RGB and PCB foam pre-installed. Since our PCB does not have any flex cuts, we have a polycarbonate plate with a bunch of flex cuts on this. The plate supports both screw-in and plate-mounted stabilizers, but we will be using screw-in because it is provided. Last but not least, we have our foam, which includes PE, plate and case foam. So let's start putting the board together. For our first build, as I mentioned, I'll be building it with every single accessory that was provided. So I'll be using the switches they provided and every single piece of foam. Basically how it was supposed to sound like when it came straight out of the carrying case. On our bottom frame, we start off with our case foam. And afterwards, we can move on to install our screw-in stabilizers that we pre-looped. Followed by that, we install our PE foam, plate foam and plate. Now for switches, these are called the Jingle V2 switches. Otherwise, I think there is a nickname for it called Ding Dong switches. It features nylon housing, palm stem, extended 20mm spring available in either 39 grams or 47 grams of actuation. It also has RGB diffusers on our top housing to smoothen our RGB emission. So after installing our switches, we can move on to our gaskets. We will be installing our Poron gaskets directly onto our plate itself. These Poron gaskets are pretty old school, and to be honest, I actually do prefer these old school Poron gaskets over the newer silicone bowl mount or the new silicone mounts. Maybe silicone gasket sock mount isn't too bad, but Poron gaskets just feel right to me. I don't know. Personal preference is my opinion. You know, we all have different preferences. It uses a total of 14 gaskets per side. So after installing all of those, we can put on our top frame and finish up the build. To finish up the build with keycaps, I decided to go with GMK Bento. I felt like the colorway would complement the white and brass. It's kind of a classic set to go with when you're working with a white keyboard with a brass accent. So here's how the keyboard sounds. Honestly, it's a lot lighter than expected. Typically, with all the foam you have installed, we basically install every single piece of foam, and with a gasket mounted keyboard, fully aluminum, you would expect the sound signature to be somewhat thorky or somewhat towards the deeper side of the sound spectrum. But with this board, it somehow didn't, and it sounds pretty light and actually clacky at the same time. So for our second build, I'm gonna try to maintain everything as it is and try to push it towards the deeper side of the sound spectrum, because clearly the foam configuration didn't really change how the keyboard sounds too much. And to do that, I experimented with a bunch of switches to roughly get the idea of how the board sounds with different switches. I have the Klein Blue, Neptune, Box Ink Black, All Kings, and finally Azuri Dragon. Overall, the sound signature from this board isn't that thorky sound or that very specific gasket mounted keyboard sound that we are used to, despite having all the foam installed with gasket mount. So after removing all my switches and keycaps, the switch choice after all the experimentation is going to be the Holy Pandas. Looped and filmed, they are one of the all-time favorite tactile switches. These switches were provided by Thought King, so do check him out. He's my Switch affiliate basically. Also, just a little heads up, installing the switches without the top frame is actually a lot easier because of how flexible the polycarbonate plate is with all the flex cuts. So at least without the top frame, you can pull out the polycarbonate plate when your switches get stuck. But yeah, after installing all the Holy Pandas and installing the keycaps back on, everything remained as it is. Only the switches changed. Here's how the keyboard sounds. Leo80, definitely a very interesting one. A gasket mounted board with all foams installed actually doesn't push towards the thorkier side of the sound spectrum. Instead, with this board, what you will be able to achieve is something a little more balanced. Basically, how the keyboard sounds in general is something down the middle, and what pushes the board towards the clackier or thorkier side of the sound spectrum would be your switches. So switches would play a very important part when you are building in the keyboard like this. But that also means a beginner would enjoy working with this keyboard a lot, because that means you wouldn't have to change your foam configuration anytime you want to change how your keyboard sounds. Just by changing the switches, you will be able to configure how your keyboard sounds. Basically, this reduces the workload, reduces the need to open up the keyboard and do all that modding and whatnot to achieve either side of what you want to get. All in all, it's a pretty nice board. I think it's in stock currently, so if you guys are interested, I have linked it down below. Comment your thoughts on Leo80 down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up, and if you enjoy keyboard content, go ahead and click that subscribe button. We are very close to 100,000 subscribers. I'm currently on 97.9k currently filming this. I think we're about to hit it in like a few days. Crazy. But aside from that, thank you so much for all the support so far. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.